Hi, we are here to learn to solve these kind of higher order questions which are based on displacement reaction. Now, displacement reaction is a reaction in which a more reactive metal displaces the less reactive one. So you need to read the table very carefully. You have a set of metals here which are labeled as A, B, C, D, and E, and we have salt solutions here: ferrous sulfate, copper sulfate, zinc sulfate, silver nitrate, and aluminium sulfate. Now, to solve these questions, we need to understand that wherever no change is written, that means there is no reaction taking place. Now, the reaction is not occurring for two reasons. One, the metal is less reactive, hence it is not able to displace the more reactive metal here, or it is the same metal. It is the same metal. So if I put zinc in zinc sulfate solution, there will be no change. So no change indicates either the metal is less reactive or it can mean that it is the same metal. And there are blanks here. So those blanks indicate there may be a change or may not be a change. So what's happening in that reaction, we don't know. Okay, so let's begin. To find out the least reactive element, that's the most easiest one. Least reactive element cannot displace any of the metals, or it will displace only one metal. Um, Let me clean up the slide. Okay, so let's see where there is no reaction taking place. Metal C, metal C is not reacting at all. Metal C is not reacting with any of the salt solutions, which means it is the least reactive metal. Metal C is least reactive. Now the most reactive one is the one which is displacing everything. So for that we need to check where we are noticing the maximum changes. Now if you see metal B, metal B is showing a change. Metal B is reacting with ferrous sulfate, copper sulfate, and silver nitrate, but it is not reacting with zinc sulfate and aluminium sulfate. On the other hand, we have E, which is showing a reaction in 3 cases, just like metal B, and there is no change in one case, and we don't know about what happens when E is added to ferrous sulfate. So we need to see which one is the most reactive. Is it B or E? Metal B is more reactive than iron, more reactive than copper, more reactive than silver. If it was more reactive than zinc, it would have displaced zinc from zinc sulfate. So metal B is less reactive than zinc. Now let's see metal E. Metal E is displacing copper, it is displacing zinc, and it is displacing silver. So metal E is more reactive than zinc. It is displacing zinc. So obviously it will displace iron. Metal E is displacing zinc, so it is more reactive than zinc. Then obviously it will be more reactive than iron, and reaction will take place here. So the most reactive element here is E. Most reactive one is E, least reactive one is C. And we just found out that metal E can displace iron from iron sulfate as it is more reactive than zinc. So reaction will take place here. Reaction occurs. Okay. What would be observed if metal D were added to a solution of copper sulfate? Metal D is here. What will happen if we add metal D to copper sulfate? So for that, we need to find out if metal D is more reactive or less reactive than copper. Metal D is showing no change in iron sulfate. Metal D does not show a change in zinc sulfate. It does not show a change in aluminium sulfate, but it is displacing silver. So metal D is more reactive than silver. And metal D is more reactive than silver. So we need to see if it can displace copper as well. More reactive than silver. But we know it is less reactive than aluminium and zinc. It is less, metal D is less reactive than aluminium and zinc. That is why there is no reaction taking place. So metal D is not showing any change in ferrous sulfate because it is the same metal. Metal D is iron. That is why it is not showing any change in ferrous sulfate. Iron in iron sulfate shows no change. So metal D can displace copper from copper sulfate. Hence there will be a reaction. And the question says what would be observed? What would be observed? So you need to write what changes, visible changes you see. So when metal D is added to copper sulfate, the blue color of copper sulfate changes to green. It becomes DSO4 and reddish brown metal gets deposited. Okay, so the blue color changes to green and reddish brown metal gets deposited. Next question. What would be observed if metal E were added to a solution of iron sulfate? That we already saw that reaction will take place when metal E is added to ferrous sulfate. So metal E, when it is added to ferrous sulfate, reaction will occur. The green color of ferrous sulfate will change to colorless. The green color of ferrous sulfate changes to colorless. Now you may be thinking why I'm writing E2SO4 thrice. That I'll explain in a while. And the last question, arrange the metals A, B, C, D and E in decreasing order. Decreasing order, that means most reactive to the least reactive one. So we just saw most reactive is E, least reactive is C. So let's predict the reactivity of other metals here. So E is the most reactive one. E is more reactive than B because B shows change in 3 solutions. So E is more reactive than B. B is more reactive than D because we know the reaction will take place here. So here D is displacing 2 metals, copper and silver. Then we are left with A. A is showing change only in 1 solution. And the least one is C, which is not showing any change. So this is the decreasing order of reactivity from the most reactive ones to least reactive one. Now, when you're getting such questions, the metals A, B, C, D, and E are the metals which are mentioned in the salts. So one of them here is iron, one of them is copper, one of the metal here is zinc, the other two are silver and aluminium. So when you look at this arrangement, the decreasing order, it is E is aluminium, B is zinc, D is iron, A is copper, C is silver. So the metals A, B, C, D, and E are the ones which are in the form of salt solutions. So that is how we will find out what should be the formula here. When aluminium is reacted with ferrous sulfate, even though we are writing it as E, we know it is aluminium. So the product will be E2SO4 thrice, Al2SO4 thrice. Replace that Al with E, E2SO4 thrice plus Fe. We have a similar question here. As mentioned earlier, the metals here are the same as mentioned in the salt solutions. So let's begin. Let's analyze this table to find out the answers. The most reactive and the least reactive metal. So least reactive is the one which is showing no change. We can see here B is showing no change at all. So B is least reactive. Most reactive shows maximum change, but we don't know what's going on here. So D is showing change only in one solution, that is silver nitrate. C is showing a change with zinc sulfate. That means C is more reactive than zinc. So obviously it will be more reactive than silver and copper. So reaction will take place in these two places. So C is displacing three metals. Whereas A is displacing copper. So it will definitely displace silver. A is more reactive than copper. So it will be more reactive than silver. But we don't know about zinc. It may not be more reactive than zinc. Okay, so we have C. C is displacing 3 out of 4. So C is our most reactive. C is displacing 3 metals out of 4. So C is our most reactive. Okay, what's the next question? What would be observed if metal C is added to copper sulfate solution? So as I just mentioned, metal C is more reactive than zinc. So it will be more reactive than copper. So when you add this C to copper sulfate, reaction will take place. Blue color of copper sulfate changes to colorless. And now you know why I'm writing C2SO4 thrice, because I have already realized that C is aluminium. Aluminium is displacing zinc, silver, and copper, and it is showing no change in aluminium sulfate. That's very obvious. So blue color of copper sulfate changes to colorless because aluminium sulfate is formed and reddish brown copper gets deposited. Fourth question, what would be observed if metal A is added to silver nitrate solution? Metal A, let me erase this, okay. Metal A is more reactive than copper, so it is obviously more reactive than silver. So metal A will displace silver from silver nitrate. So A plus silver nitrate AgNO3 gives ANO3 twice plus Ag. So what do we see? Silver nitrate solution is colorless. Reaction will take place and we will get ANO3 twice, which is also colorless, but we will notice that silvery metal gets deposited, which indicates that reaction has taken place. Now A is not displacing aluminium, and it is not, we don't know what's happening here. So I hope you're able to guess what the metal is, what metal A is. Metal A will not show any change in zinc sulfate because metal A is zinc. That is why it is not reacting, or it is not displacing aluminium from aluminium sulfate. Now let's answer the first question here. We have answered the other three. Arrange the metals in the increasing order of reactivity. Increasing means least reactive to most reactive. So least we have found out is B, most is C. So B is less reactive than, okay, let me just quickly write down. We have found out that C is aluminium, A is zinc, that means B is silver, and D is copper. This you don't have to mention in the answer. This is just for your understanding so that you can arrange them quickly. So B is least reactive, then comes D, where displacement is taking place. Then we have A, and then the most reactive is